A macabre house can be seen surrounded by fog. Inside, a man with a burn on his leg begs for more time. In front of him, a man who looks like a mafioso, the one who burned him, says that if someone owes him money, they should sell their organs to pay. The crazed man with a scar over his eyes says the guy needs to feel more pain. Only then will he understand the feeling of not getting his money back. The woman standing behind him seems to be typing on her phone. Noticing this, the mafioso is visibly surprised. He quickly snatches the phone from her hand, startling her. He asks if she was calling the police and says it wouldn't help anyway. Looking at the phone screen, he's surprised. She was texting her son, saying she couldn't talk at the moment and that he must not come home under any circumstances. The maniac says that instead of hitting her, he could just hit her son to make her suffer. She screams in desperation, begging them not to hurt her child, as two henchmen restrain her. The mafioso tells the goons to shut both of them up so they won't say anything. He sarcastically says he doesn't want to hurt her son as she's being tied up. The door opens, and the mafioso, wearing a crazed grin, says the son has arrived. A boy in a school uniform and backpack has his hand on the doorknob, ready to open it. He looks bored, maybe even sad. Slowly, the door begins to open. The mother, gagged and tied up, mentally begs him not to come in. Almost half the door is open and the tension fills the air. The boy opens the door and sees no one since the armed henchmen are hiding behind the walls. Calmly, he removes his shoes and puts down his backpack. As he enters the house, he walks quietly through the home in his socks. A red-haired henchman attacks him with a bat from behind a wall. The blow lands directly on the back of the boy's head. His mother sees it and starts crying, unable to do anything. The henchman realizes the bat suddenly won't move anymore. Suddenly, the boy lands a powerful and precise punch on the henchman's face. The man crashes to the floor, badly injured, and everyone stares in shock. As a realization hits them, they're stunned by what just happened. The white, suited mafioso is terrified and wonders what the hell that is. Radiating a powerful aura, the boy stares him down with a clenched fist. The boss orders his men to take the kid down quickly. He dodges a strike from a bat swung behind him. Then he lands a solid punch into one man's ribs. The hit is so powerful that it breaks the enemy's bones. The man feels the impact, spits out saliva, completely stunned and in pain. The kid strikes again in the same spot, shattering more of the man's ribs. Screaming in pain, the man's face twists into a horrible expression of desperation. The boy sees a kick coming from another enemy. He dodges it with sharp reflexes. In response, he kicks the man's knee, making him scream in pain and agony. A blonde thug tries to attack him from behind with a chair. The hit lands directly on the boy's head. He stares at the blonde as if he didn't feel it at all. The thug is terrified to see the chair shattered and the boy still standing. In a flash, the blonde is thrown across the room, crashing into a wall, startling the boss. Overcome with fear and shock, the mafioso asks what the hell this thing is. He pulls out a knife and looks at the tied-up hostages with malice. He mockingly asks the boy if his dad can still walk after getting beaten. Suddenly, an iron appears right in front of the boss's body, surprising him. The boy smashes the object directly into the man's face. His parents see it all and are stunned by what they've just witnessed. We're shown the enemy's head embedded in the wall. On the other side, the mafioso says his neck really hurts, tells someone to call 119 and asks if anyone is still there. He angrily yells if no one else is left, and we see that the boy defeated everyone. The boy breathes heavily, recovering from the fight. His father watches him while his mother closes her eyes, slightly relieved. The boy unties his parents afterward. He asks them if they don't want him to fight, and they shouldn't be so poor. Suddenly, he collapses to the floor, and his mother screams his name in despair. Kong Sun-woo. While later, we see a large building. It's a hospital. Inside, there are several people screaming and groaning in pain in the rooms along with the doctors there. A well-dressed man in a suit and glasses is standing at the hospital reception. He asks a young woman why all that chaos is happening. The girl says a loan shark kidnapped the guy's parents, and he defeated 10 henchmen. That had been done by a high school student all by himself. Upon hearing that, the man is shocked by the situation. The loan shark tells his goons to finish him off immediately, but one of his subordinates says that Kong himself is the one paying the hospital. A blonde guy says that the black bear is coming and that the protagonist is done for. The man at the reception grows curious upon hearing the name Black Bear. He asks which room the high school student is in, and the receptionist says it's 202. Suddenly, he runs toward the room. While running, he says that if the black bear is in the area, he's a good candidate for a fighter, and this might help him verify the candidate. He stops in front of the room door. The man in the suit reads the name Kong on a little plaque and says that unfortunately he got involved with him. He looks through the small window in the door and says he feels sorry for that student. Inside the room, we see Kong, an extremely tall and muscular man, something that shouldn't be human given his abnormal physique. The black bear says he never thought they'd call him just for some random high school delinquent. He adds that Kong shouldn't blame him, but he also has debts to collect. Staring at him, the bear says the protagonist is quite an interesting guy because even after seeing the monster in front of him, he doesn't seem scared. Kane removes the four from his hand, preparing to fight. The monster says he has to show the kid what true fear is and raises his hand to attack. Kong quickly counters with a powerful punch to the face. The same man in the suit is still watching through the window and says the boy is very fast. The bald man easily brings down the protagonist with a single hand, stopping him cold. Kong feels the impact as he hits the floor hard. Still watching through the window, the man in the suit says that as expected, the bear would win. The monster says that no matter how crazy Kong is, if he attacks him, he'll take him down and adds that Kong is nothing special and will die just like that. With a shocked look, the bear questions how Kong is getting up. The protagonist says he talks too much for someone who is nothing. Furious, the man gets pissed off by the kid's mockery. He says that's exactly what makes finishing someone off so fun and charges at the boy with a crazy grin. The man at the door questions if he's really going to kill the boy and says he needs to stop this now. Kong dodges the blow, leaving the bear surprised. He counters the punch with a clean kick to the bald guy's face. With a stunned look, the man watching can't seem to believe what just happened. The bald guy's face is deformed after the blow, and he falls to the ground. He says he's never even heard of the black bear being knocked down, but the man doesn't give in and gets back up in rage. Still observing, the man says that as expected, there's no way someone known as the king of physique in the whole country would be taken down so easily. The muscular man asks Kong if he really thought he'd fall after taking a kick from a mere student, but the protagonist immediately lands a solid punch on him. From the door, the guy says none of this makes any sense. Kong throws another extremely powerful punch. The bear seems dazed after blows like those, but still he grabs Kong with his large, strong arms and squeezes him. He says he'll have to use his best move against a high school student. Alarmed, the man who's been watching says that's the black bear's signature move called the Bone Crusher, and that he has to stop this now. The monster crushes the boy against his body with full strength. He says like a madman that the protagonist is starting to look ridiculous. Finally taking action, the man in the suit enters the room and tells the bear to stop, but the muscle-bound man doesn't stop and squeezes the boy even harder, who's now in a tight spot. The guy who tried to stop everything is now terrified by the situation. Silence fills the room, and everyone remains frozen in incredible tension. Noticing something, the bear is surprised. He wonders if his senses went numb and confirms they didn't, that he used all of his strength. Kong moves and places his hand on Kang's shoulder, startling the man with the boy's presence. He asks how the protagonist is still moving and how his bones haven't broken. Furiously, he squeezes the boy's body with all his strength and says this time he'll go all out. Kong slowly begins to stand up from the blow, and the brute asks again why his bones haven't broken yet. The protagonist is actually getting ready to deliver a monstrous headbutt to the bald man's face. On the floor, the man asks if the boy reinforced his bones with metal or something else. Kane delivers another headbutt, probably even stronger than the last, crushing the man's face. The man's face becomes completely deformed after the brutal blows. With several insane headbutts, the boy continues tirelessly. The guy in the suit tells the boy to stop because the bear is already unconscious. He tells Kane to calm down for now. He also says that if the fight escalates, it'll be hard to clean up the mess. He makes a phone call and says that in room 202, building B, a man has suffered a cranial injury from a car accident. Kong asks who he is and questions if he's with the criminals. Seriously, the man says that if that's how things are, he would like to propose some kind of partnership with the protagonist. Kong immediately asks what kind of the guy is talking about. Several people wearing strange outfits and carrying suspicious equipment enter the room. Everyone looks at the black bear's body lying on the ground. They ask the suited man if they should wrap this up. The man asks one of the people in strange clothes if they can assume the bear won't regain consciousness for now, and they say they'll begin. Kane just watches them work silently and questions what the hell is going on. He seems upset by the situation, clearly not understanding any of it. Handing a card to the boy, the man in the suit says the contact on it is someone who can give him what he's looking for. Kane takes the card and looks at it, still confused about the whole situation. The man says that all Kane has to do is fight for the one he serves. And on the card, we see some kind of symbol with a siren. Kane crushes the card and tells the man to go to hell. Clearly pissed off by everything happening, he gets up and walks out, throws the card in the trash, and says he's not interested in making money by fighting. As he leaves, he wonders what kind of scam the guy was trying to pull on him. Watching him walk away, The man says the boy has good judgment, but that such a mindset could easily change at any moment. Later in the bathroom, the protagonist washes his face after the intense fight. He says that even though his life is a mess, he still wants to fulfill his mother's dream, which is simply for him not to get into fights. A man in a brown coat, who must be the boy's father, opens the bathroom door and asks what he's doing there. Still by the door, the man asks where Kong thinks he's going in that condition. The boy asks what he means by that condition. Angrily, the boy asks who he thinks is responsible for that condition. He asks his father if he wasn't once a boxing champion and why he didn't do anything, how he ended up with massive debt. Kong, still furious, says the man's champion pride is so great for a local gym, and he doesn't even know why he was kicked off the national team. He ends his angry rant by saying that his father's worthless pride is more important than his mother's health, who is sick and weak. The man remains silent. As he leaves, his father tells him not to think about leaving the hospital. Still standing and looking at the door, Kong says he hates all of this. Suddenly, the boy starts to feel dizzy. He collapses to the ground and says his head hurts. He thinks he hasn't been sleeping much, but adds that every time he sees his father, his head always hurts. With a sad expression, he says to himself that he hates his father, that the old man would barely bring any money home and always had major injuries. Kong says his father would bow to the parents of the bullies he beat up, and that he doesn't want to depend on him for anything. The boy says he doesn't want to believe that his father thinks he did everything he had to do, but it seems like he's just falling deeper into a hole. He says that as a high school student who can't even get on a fishing boat, changing his life is impossible and that he can't even make enough money to cover the daily household expenses. We see a group of young guys calling him to play, and Kong runs off, saying he's busy. Then in his memories, he sees some guys smashing his motorcycle, saying he's screwed. Because of these late-night bullies, his father's debts have only gotten worse. He also says he can't leave home because he doesn't want to and can't abandon his mother. He ends by saying his life is a complete mess. Next, we see Kong waking up on a stretcher wearing patient clothes. He wonders if he passed out again, and when they moved him to a different room. Picking up his phone, he wonders how long he's been there. He sees a message from his father and finds it strange. In a message, his father says the time has finally come to tell Kong everything that same night. The boy wonders what else the man has been hiding. After that, he looks for messages from his mother. He calls her looking for news about his beloved family. When she answers, he asks the lady if everything is okay. The woman tells Kong not to go home because there are gangsters hiding there, and it would be too dangerous, and the boy is surprised. The woman adds that he should stay where he is because she moved him to another room, changed his name, and because of that he'll be safe, and he asks where his mom is. She says she's hiding near a police station in a motel, and that he shouldn't worry about her, and can't stay on the phone for long. The woman says Kong shouldn't move around for now, and that she's hanging up now. The boy remains standing after the call ends. He gets mad at himself, and says it's his fault for getting her involved with those guys. He runs out saying he needs to meet up with his mother first. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing, and he sees it's his father calling. Kong answers and greets the man, but on the other end, someone asks if he's Mr. Kang's son. The boy confirms the man's question and asks who he is. The man says something bad happened, and that the protagonist's father collapsed and is unconscious. The boy is shocked by what he hears. We see the protagonist's father on the ground with many injuries after collapsing, and two of his friends are around him. Sometime later in the intensive care unit, we see Kane next to the bed where his father is hospitalized with his whole body bandaged. The man is unconscious and breathing through machines. A doctor says the surgery is very complicated and that just the cost of the surgery exceeds 100 million won, not to mention the following years of expensive treatment. Kong breaks down inside, crying over the difficult situation his father is in. The boy cries alone in the corner, drowning in his thoughts. He blames himself for everything that's happening and seems to regret everything he did and said to his own father. The boy is completely lost, not knowing what to do, but in a flash of memory, he remembers the offer made by the man in the suit and the card he threw away. He runs off, saying he needs to find that room where the red card was thrown in the trash. Returning to the same place, room 202, where he fought against the black bear, he opens the door after running hard to get there as fast as possible. He searches for the card on his knees in one last hope. Unfortunately, he doesn't find the card in that trash. The protagonist starts blaming himself again in immense despair. Crying, he apologizes to his father, saying there's nothing he can do. In deep sadness, he says it would have been better if he had just been finished off. In a last stroke of hope, the same man in the suit appears at the door and asks if Kong is looking for the car by any chance. He asks if by any chance the boy changed his mind. The protagonist quickly asks how much the guy can offer him in payment. The man says he'll earn at least 10 billion won, and Kong is shocked by the amount. The same man adds that even if he doesn't win, he'll still gain popularity and consequently a lot of money, and he asks if Kong will come with him. In a different room, both are sitting at a table facing each other. The man in the suit tells the protagonist to do it in his own time and not to rush signing the papers. Reading the paper, Kong finds the name Fighting Ward strange and asks what it is. The man says it's a fight tournament that takes place underground and its fighters are monsters with very high physical abilities due to illegal drugs. The protagonist says he won't use that kind of forbidden drug called doping. After that, the man opens a suitcase filled with various vials containing different liquids. He says that it's not just any ordinary doping, and depending on the type, it can give a man on the brink of death's supernatural strength. But he adds that obviously doping is optional and not mandatory. Kong asks who exactly the man standing in front of him is. The man apologizes for the delay in introducing himself and says his name is Kim Minnick and that he works for a VIP client of the Fighting Ward. He says that what really matters right now isn't who he is, but the issue of doping. Kim says there hasn't been a single winner who won without using some form of doping. Kong says firmly that he already said he won't use it, and the man tells him to at least listen before fighting. In his thoughts, the protagonist is pissed, thinking that Kim clearly isn't listening to him. Kim explains how things work. If Kong enters the top 20 fighters, he can choose a sponsor. At that point, he can pick the VIP that Kim worked for sponsor him and go toward victory with their support. Something simple. Kong says he accepts and asks them to just give him the money already since that's all he needs. Kim says that's a problem because he'll only get paid if he enters the tournament, and Kong is surprised. He asks if the guy is kidding and wants to know if he'll have to work with him. Kim tells him to calm down and asks if the money he needs is to keep his family safe and healthy. Kong is confused by that and asks who he is and what he's talking about. Kim says that as long as the protagonist fights for his boss, his family will be safe and his father's hospital bills will be paid, and they'll even keep the debt collectors away from all of them. The boy immediately asks how he's supposed to trust Kim out of nowhere. Suddenly, his mother calls and he quickly answers. He asks if something happened to her, fearing the worst. She says she heard that Kane paid for his father's treatment and even sent bodyguards to protect him. Kane doesn't know what to say in that unexpected moment, and Kim says that a safe house is being prepared where his father can rest in peace. The man says there isn't much to be done since the protagonist doesn't have many options. Kong then tells his mother that the people who are there, all of them were sent by him, and tells her he has to hang up and will see her later. His mother calls his name in concern, but he just says he'll call her back later. Kane looks relieved after the situation with his family is somewhat under control. He asks what all this is and whether it will be deducted from the 19 billion won. But Kim says the 10 billion is just the starting amount. And Kong is shocked because depending on how many people bet on him, the total amount keeps increasing, and with a victory, he could earn up to 15 billion won. Kong says that's insane, but the man adds that it's definitely not impossible. He also says that for high-level fighters, that amount is actually low. Kong is deeply shocked to hear that, but he learns that some average competitors might pass out or even lose their lives. And in fact, only 10% of the preliminary contestants leave the tournament unscathed. Kong says it's insane that so many people lose their lives, and yet the Fighting Ward remains hidden.